Hi there, worldlies. I thought we'd do another story time here. This one's a little bit weird. This is about another person who didn't have boundaries. Okay, so this isn't a bozo. This is just about a guy that didn't have boundaries, and this is just kind of like a weird story time. Okay, this guy was a friend of mine I had online, and he was strictly an online friend. I had never met him in person. I don't remember exactly how we met, but I think we met. I think we met on Moco Space. Yeah, I think we met on Moco Space, and we later were friends on Facebook after that. And anyway, we were friends just it seems like for years after that, and we chatted quite a bit. And he had the way that he liked to chat. He had like an order in which he liked to chat. So it was like, how's your day? How's this? How's that? Blah, blah, blah. And he had like an order in which he liked to do things. And one of the things he used to ask is, how's your mom? Now, here's the thing. I'm blessed. I still have both my parents with me, and they're both doing okay. But here's the thing. If I've never mentioned my parents before, or anything like that, I really don't want anybody asking about them. If they've never met my parents before, or I've never mentioned them before, they're not they're not a friend who I'm going to talk to about my parents. There's some friends that know your parents and you talk to about your parents, and then there's other friends where you just kind of like chop it up and talk about other stuff. Like you don't really want to talk to them about your parents, and you don't want them in your parents' business, right? So this guy used to always ask, how's your mom? Now, this guy didn't even know if I had a mom or not. And he didn't even ask, how's your folks? He would just ask, how's your mom? So I told him, I said, that question makes me really uncomfortable, so I need you to stop asking me that. So the next time he would ask, how's your mom, again, in the lineup of questions. And every single time I talked to him, we would have a fairly decent conversation, but he would always ask, how's your mom? And every single time I would tell him to stop asking me that. It made me uncomfortable. Well, I mean, we would talk about a lot of different things, and nothing was really taboo. I mean, I'm a pretty open-minded person who can talk about a lot of different topics. I've had a really interesting life. But this guy could just not get it through his head that I didn't want him to say, how's your mom? It depends on where you're from. In the United States, how's your mom is a polite question in some parts of the United States, and it's a rude question in other parts of the United States. If you don't know somebody's mother and they've never brought their mother up, asking about their mom is kind of like, it's kind of like a rude thing to do, depending. I think in the South, I think everybody asks about everybody's mom. I think that's like probably a normal thing to do there. But I mean, where I'm from, if you're asking about someone's mom, you're like, why are you asking about my mom? That's sus. I mean, that's kind of, why are you doing that? That's kind of weird, and that's kind of like where I'm from. If you do something like that, you're just kind of like, why are you asking me that? It's kind of, it didn't sit well with me. So, I told him that's kind of a weird thing to do where I'm from, and I don't like it, and so every time he did it, I kept telling him it made me uncomfortable. Well, he just would turn around and do it again. So after knowing him several years, and he would just never stop doing it, we would cover a lot of topics. I mean, we talked about a whole lot of stuff. I finally blocked him on all the medias that we shared together, because I was just tired of him asking how's your mom. I mean, my mom deserves privacy. It's none of his business how she is. She's fine, by the way, but it was just none of his business. And it was more like a boundary thing. It was more because I kept telling him to stop doing it, and he wouldn't. So when somebody tells you to stop doing something, even if it's in your repertoire of conversation, take it out of there. If anybody has this list of questions they ask, be suspicious of that, because this is not the first time somebody has done something sus with a list of questions and it's created a problem. This is not the first time in my life this has been a situation where someone had like a sus list of questions. So I don't know what you want to do with that information, but I just thought this was interesting, and I never once regretted cutting this person off, because I think it's harmless that he was doing that, but just the fact that he didn't listen. Maybe nobody else cared that he said, "How's your mom?" Maybe they all would give him an earful of their mom's business, and maybe that's fine. He's hearing all about their mother. So I hope everybody has a beautiful evening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.